eligibility group. And so almost all the scholarships we've been looking at have some form of eligibility, but it varies. So far we've got... What channel? La traducción es en el canal 4.
Y pueden cambiar el canal en la parte de aquí. Si ustedes... Levanten la mano si ustedes tienen audífonos para traducción. Ok. Entonces el canal lo pueden cambiar en la parte de aquí. Pero esa es la misma presentación que acabamos de pasar en la primera sesión. Ok. Entonces aquí va a ser canal 4.
Okay, and Mr. Becker will be giving us a summary of what some of the comments have been given, not just in this session, but other sessions. And the issue that got a lot of attention is if we should include charters or not. A lot of people said that we should include charters, that we should include all students, even private school. But there's also other eligibility criteria that's up here that we also would like to talk about. If we start talking about just eligibility related to that, we'll keep that discussion going, but then I'll bring it back to some of the other eligibility criteria. One more thing. There's also multiple ways to give your input. So it's today, if you want to speak, we'll be writing down notes. You can write your notes here if you don't want to talk. You also have comment cards that you got at the entrance. We also have at www.richmondpromise.org, we have a Google form where you could go in there, or you could just call us, and I could also either come to your school or come to your organization. If you have a group of people that want to give comments, I could also do that. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for being here and thanks for coming. This is the eligibility section, as Gabino mentioned, and we're going to be asking some prompting questions and following up with a recording of your statements, your feedback, and your input. And as Gabino mentioned, if you don't get a chance to speak because we run out of time on the microphone, which we'll be sharing, you do have an opportunity to complete the section in your packet. Your form, it's the, and I'm blanking on the comment card, thank you. Or you can actually come up here after the session and write on these flip charts here, but we're also going to record up front. So, we heard very loud and clearly in the previous group that charter schools should not be excluded from the Richmond Promise. We also had folks who believed that this really should not be about schools, but should be about every child who is a Richmond resident being eligible for the Promise. So we've heard that as well. Previously, also in this work, a lot of folks focused on even comments about, well, maybe this should be a district-wide process. And so we recorded that as well, okay? Because there are parents who might live in El Cerrito, but their kids go to Richmond schools, etc. So because of that, we are, again, going to provide folks an opportunity tonight to provide your feedback and your opinions. We're going to capture those up. We'll ask clarifying questions if we need to, but our goal is really to listen and to allow you a chance to address not only the charter school question, which most people wanted to focus on in the first session, but also some of the other eligibility requirements here. We heard, for example, in the last session that A through G should not be a requirement. We also heard that students eligible under AB 450, AB 540, thank you, should be included. And that eliminates the FAFSA application piece because they're not eligible for federal dollars, but they could still be eligible for the Promise. That was the recommendation. So we're going to open it up right now, and if folks have comments, please raise your hand. And okay, we'll start up here.
Hi, I'm Tana. I actually had a couple questions too. How are we going to be assured that our voice, what we're saying right now, is going to be a part of the decision? And is this going to be transparent? From what this is the first workshop, so why haven't parents and youth been a part of the early conversations? What Mr. Lindsay was talking about when he was talking to district and some of the nonprofits and different ones like that, but I didn't hear him say that there was any conversations with parents or youth at that point. And will parents and students be a part of the design phase? I live in San Pablo. My kids go to Richmond schools, charter schools. I live not that far from North Richmond. I saw the Chevron fire burning outside of my window the whole night, so I'm breathing all of the Chevron air. And I also do a lot of work in North Richmond, and I feel like a lot of the kids that are in San Pablo going to Helms and now going to Richmond High, and they're not going to be part of that promise. I understand Richmond. I do also feel, though, that all Richmond kids should have access to the promise.
So I don't know that I can speak for the city, because I actually am a volunteer tonight and I work for the Community Foundation. But we will record this and we will try to get answers for you. My understanding is the purpose of the next session will be actually partly answering questions and feeding back the information that was heard tonight. So hopefully we can get your questions answered as part of that.
But I think one of our main comments is that we need to be very clear on how the feedback from these community meetings will be included in the final document that goes to the City Council for approval. So be very explicit maybe in the next meeting in the beginning related to how the system we're going to be doing that. Yes. That'd be a comment. Yes. And also kind of like the timeline, how the early decisions were made, yes. And how could people get involved now that they know, they say the draft strategic plan, right?
Okay, I have another question up here.
Yeah, my name is Liz Sagan, and I have two students, one of whom has gone through the public school system all the way up through 8th grade, and one of whom started the public school system has ended up in a charter school in Oakland because of a number of circumstances which made it seem to me as though he would not be able to get the kind of education that would allow him to go to the college that he was had the aptitude for by staying within the district. And I think it's important to allow parents to make decisions for their children that give them the best shot at college. And I understand using a program like this to support the public schools, and I'm in favor of public schools, and I wish the public schools in Richmond were great. And some of them are. And some of them aren't. And where you live often determines whether you have great or not great. So I think it's important to not cut children out because they live somewhere that's not great, and their parents make a decision for them to allow them to succeed somewhere else.
Thank you very much. Other comments? Yes, Manette.
Hi, how are you? Alejandro Rios. I work at SF State, and my son attends Summit K2 Charter School. I would just like to reiterate what we have been hearing all night, include every resident in Richmond. Every student deserves a piece of this pie.
Even if they attend like a school in Oakland, like she was saying?
Every resident here.
Okay, every resident. So residency is the critical element. Okay. Other folks? Other comments? Yes.
Good evening, my name is Maria. I am a graduating senior from LPS Richmond. I am here because I want to demand that that Richmond Promise funds include students attending charter schools in Richmond. I am a zero expected family contribution student, and I come from a family of 6 that makes $28,000 a year. To say that people in charter schools are well off is inaccurate. More than 90% of my school receives free or reduced lunch. I have a brother who also attends LPS, and I am here because I want to make sure he gets access to the scholarships because he is equally driven as other kids. I believe that to essentially punish parents who choose to pursue other educational opportunities for their kids is outrageous, to say the least.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, so like Maria, my name is Sergio, and I'm a rising 12th grader at Leadership Public Schools Richmond. And I just want to say that, first, my entire academic career here at Richmond, I've been at a WCC USC school, whether it was at Washington, like Miss Isabel had her children, or at Helms Middle School, which is in San Pablo. I've been very much so in the public system. And to all of a sudden say that just because my school's labeled as a charter school, I no longer have access to this Richmond Promise, despite the fact that I've been living here for 14 years, that's just outrageous. And I just don't understand where it becomes a punishment that my mother decided to pursue other educational opportunities because she faced the reality that our educational system here in Richmond is not the best by no means. And I just don't understand that.
Okay. Other comments? Up here and over to the left.
Just clarity on that third bullet up there, it says students may not use the scholarship for fully online programs. So I could take a class online, just that it can't be fully online. Is that correct?
Currently, that's what is, but if you think that we should or we shouldn't,
No, I'm just clarifying what's up there. Thank you.
Okay. Someone, I think, over here.
Sí, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Leticia Contreras. A mí me gustaría que incluyeran a todos los residentes de las áreas alrededor, ya sea San Pablo, de alrededor de Richmond. Yo, mi hijo, lo decidí mover de la escuela pública porque él estaba en el programa GATE durante 2 o 3 años. Fui a buscar ayuda con la directora. No tenían programas para los niños que son avanzados, dotados en cierta área. Entonces yo decidí moverlo de San Pablo, que puede caminar a la escuela, que puede caminar aquí a unas cuantas cuadras de mi casa. Decidí llevarlo a Berkeley por una mejor educación para él. Entonces no creo que por el hecho de que yo no viva en Richmond, él se quede sin esta oportunidad.
She just wants to say that she believes that all students, regardless of where they live, should qualify. Her son attended public schools, and when he was out of elementary, he was a GATE student. A GATE student is a student that is advanced. And when she talked to the teacher, and the teacher didn't give her any options to continue the growth of her son, she decided to take him to a charter school in Berkeley. So she doesn't think that she should be excluded just because of the fact that she's made that decision.
Alejandro. Going back to point number 3 with the online programs, I know the CSU and some of the UCs are gearing towards, the online schooling. Could we maybe consider it, maybe do some research on it, see, because 5-10 years from now it might be a well-developed an option for students, and I wouldn't like to exclude anyone. They will have to show some type of documentation or whatnot, but not necessarily take it out completely, but do more research on that.
You got that, Kavino? Okay, great.
Good evening. My name is Artrice Morrison, and I am a parent of a child in going to 4th grade. I guess has more questions than suggestions or answers. I would like to know how that $150 million endowment is going to be built, so that, because when I'm listening to the request of everyone and meeting, having it be either the 2 choices, it's a little bit for everybody, or just a sum for some for some people. And in order to do that, it has to be past 35 million, and it has to get past even probably 150 million. I don't know if the data is in terms of all the potential growing children graduating from anywhere in this district in the next 10 years. What is that number? And how much can be given to each of those children in order to support their 4-year college education, which is growing. By the time 10 years happens, it's not going to be what it costs today. It's going to be in 10 years from now what it's going to cost. So I guess I just need answers in terms of this endowment, and is 150 million thinking about 2024 or 2026, excuse me, 2026 as opposed to 2016 and what it costs. So those are more questions, like I said, than answers.
And just from hearing you, I know Group C is working on that, which is a word amount. I'm looking at the questions that they're dealing with, and one of it is the endowment and also the calculation, because I know, if you guys know, UC tuition is, when I went, it's the same, it's different now, so that's factored into the actual criteria. There's a group for that.
And you know, it is going to take a lot. I mean, that's one of the challenges I think that's being faced. I know, that's my background. So I'm actually, publicly, our foundation made a commitment to the city that we would help them try to raise that 150 million and beyond. So we hope it will, we believe it will happen. We're committed to making it happen. So I had a question here, and then I saw one in the back. Okay.
Well, actually, I just wanted to say, you just had one of our past superintendent ask a question and you blew her off. And it was a very legitimate question. And and she left too. So I wish you would take a little more time in summarizing the questions.
Okay, thank you. Let's see.
Yeah, thank you for this discussion. It's a really good one, an important one. I think a fundamental direction needs to be determined is the program more to help take those kids who are going to go to college anyway and give them some additional financial assistance, or is it more to increase the number of kids who otherwise would not go to college due to financial preparation or motivational reasons? Ideally, it would be both. You could cover both, and that's the optimal, but if the money is stretched really thin, I would opt for making it more towards the targeting students who might otherwise not be able to go to college due to financial reasons and preparation and that sort of thing.
Okay. Anyone else? Other comments? Oh, you did one? Yeah? Well, let me get this gentleman and then I'll come back.
I did want to add a question or a point. I don't teach at a private school, but I think I'd be hurt if I were a student at a private school. I know that from what we heard over in the award meeting, that the original agreement between Chevron and Richmond was only for students at public schools. We can go back and forth for a long time about whether or not charter schools fit that bill, but I wonder about students who are at Salesians or Marin Catholic who grew up here, who live here in Richmond, whose parents got scholarships to send them to the schools. Why should they be excluded? I think enough people have said that the myth that students who go to better schools somehow get more money is not true. Those students should be included. They should have the support of their community. And they shouldn't be penalized for going to a public school versus a private school. School is a school, and people who live in Richmond are people who live in Richmond. I get that we have to exclude people for solvency, but I don't think we should be excluding the kids. We should be talking about other ways to make this last over a long period of time.
So I think my comment kind of was answered. I just wanted to, I guess, have this duly noted. As you might see on the slide, it says that the promise is limited to residents of Richmond as defined by ECIA, which I didn't know what ECIA was, but I just want to have noted that, you know, it's given to residents regardless to financial circumstance, demographic. You know, if they're residents, they're residents. We don't want any tricks coming out at the last minute once we apply and there's something in the fine print we didn't read. So just to make sure that it's actually Richmond residents, and that's it.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
Hola, mi nombre es María Rivera. Yo tengo 3 niños que han estudiado en la escuela de West Contra Costa. Y yo veo que las escuelas públicas hay mucho problema con los maestros y los niños tienen bajas calificaciones. Yo quiero saber si los niños que tienen bajas calificaciones, ellos puedan aplicar para una beca de estas. Solamente. Gracias.
Hi, my name is Maria, and I have 3 children right here in Richmond schools. And I believe that public schools have many challenges. One of them having to do with teachers. So I believe that all students should benefit from this promise, Richmond Promise.
Okay, other folks? Anyone on this side? Or?
¿Alguien más? ¿Otro comentario?
Sí.
Solamente yo les quiero decir que yo probé las escuelas públicas, no me funcionaron, tuve que buscar una opción y la opción fue las charter. Yo no me imaginé qué tan buenas serían esas escuelas, que ya cuando puse a mi hijo me llevé la sorpresa y son las mejores. Yo ni loca vuelvo a las públicas, porque tuve muchos problemas, incluso a mi hijo me lo quisieron ahorcar y nadie me dijo nada, solamente mi hijo me dijo, y yo fui a hablar con la directora y le dije que qué cuentas me iban a dar, nada más con decirme, si mataban a mi hijo, con decirme, sorry, ya me iban se iban a excusar de la mala educación que dan.
So I had a bad experience in public schools, and I would be crazy to take my children back to public school. And one of my experiences is that my son was bullied to the point that he was being choked. And I was never told about the incident. I talked to the principal, and the principal did not do anything, and the only reply is that, what would have happened if he would have died? Would the response to be just, I'm sorry?
Okay, so we are getting close to 8 o'clock. We have time for one more comment. And then I know folks are going to convene back in this room.
Good evening. I just wanted to fully note it again that I also want what will happen after the 2026 with all the other generations that will become. I think that's also a major point, since children will not go away in 10 years. They will still be here. So I think not only will I meet my children and all the children that will be benefiting until 2026 can benefit from the Richmond Promise, but as well as other children who are coming beyond those years. I think they should also be something from them too.
Okay, thank you all very much for participating. Folks are coming back in now. We're going to convene here and close the session. If you didn't have a chance to ask your questions, please complete the comment card or come up and write your information on the papers up here, and we will make sure that gets incorporated into the material from tonight. Thank you.